All right, I'm live. So I might not get too many participators, but I decided to do all these things live because they get saved and they can be seen later. But there are some topics of discussion that a lot of people, don't know about. They know people who have PTSD or may actually have PTSD and not aware of it. Um, so I'm put in the description a um, a link. This discussion is pretty much for anybody, but the topic today is tips and hints about post traumatic stress. I tend to say simply post traumatic stress instead of post traumatic stress disorder because when you say disorder, it seems much more daunting. And there are two different types of diagnoses of post traumatic stress. One is complex, lifelong, and the other is post traumatic stress. So, um, I had been diagnosed, around 2007 or so with post traumatic stress, but some of that lingered, and unfortunately, there are just some things that still kind of get to me. So it's my diagnosis changed to complex post traumatic stress, which people will say lifelong. Usually, those who really have trouble overcoming it end up with a lifelong diagnosis. But that's not really the end of the story. It doesn't have to be, but I can say for sure um, that there are certain things. I don't go to fireworks. Um, I try not to. You know, I do try and stay away from certain things if I know they're going to happen. You can't always predict. For example, I went to Washington State, I guess in 2013. I'd never been to the Gorge, which is a place where you can camp, and it's also a music venue. And I got a chance to go, and Fish were playing, but I didn't know that they were going to do fireworks. So that was a tough go for me. And the person I was with didn't really understand what was going on. So I had to kind of grin and bear it. And that was very difficult for me. Took a lot of energy to do that. Um, so my chats are, these will be live. Any part of the tips and hints um, videos I do, it'll be a series. Um, oh, there's Diane. It'll be a series of people. Sorry, got distracted. Will be a series. So tips and hints are going to be a series of live chats instead of just videos because I'm hoping that somewhere along the way, maybe somebody's watching or somebody knows somebody who has PTSD, or maybe there's a doctor or a psychologist or someone who um, has some other tips and hints. But I did put up the PTSD Veterans Affairs um, what do you call it, link, so that anybody who wants to kind of start there, if you can't see that link, there are some countries I think maybe you can't always see the government links. I don't really know. I've been able to in most countries, so you know uh, it's another reason why I kind of want to speak about it because if you can't see the site or you can't get to that link, um, we can discuss it. So hopefully somebody will pop on. If not, it's still just going to be here. Uh, One of the first things that kind of struck me right before I originally got diagnosed was um, I was really, really, really what people call hypervigilant. So, I mean, everything, just, you know, always looking, always looking, always looking, scanning, 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 always looking. Um, and it gets, you get tired out doing that all the time. It's just the constant state of vigilance that you don't really get a break from. And, you can start having psychosomatic situations. And what psychosomatic means is um, like certain stress and other kinds of things that are constantly putting pressure on an individual can start causing physical ailments. It can disrupt your sleep. So, you don't get enough sleep, you're cranky after time, you just wore out all the time, always on edge, always on edge, always on edge. And when stress hormones start building up in your body, you can have some very, very, very serious issues. And, there's been some research, and I'm not saying it's definitive, okay? But it's been repeated. So there have been similar results from several different countries having to do with stress hormones and your neurochemicals. So you could have a serotonin overload when your stress starts building up, and a serotonin overload will give you, some people call it a storm, but it will put you in a state of temporary disorder. So, and what I mean by that is things that didn't used to bother you are now much more bothersome. I have a different kind of viewpoint that's a little harsher on me than some because I am autistic. And we autistics tend to hear things that other people don't and notice things that other people don't. For instance, I purposely buy clocks, and thank God for them, that battery operated that are silent because you can't hear the tick, tick, tick. And I try not to use digital clocks because they make sound, they make noise. I can't sleep sometimes. I mean, if the only noise I hear is a digital clock, it'll keep my brain awake, and so causes sleep disruption. So I have a little bit of trouble with that. But when you get hit with a severe case of PTSD, again, I'm just going to say this right out loud. I am not a psychiatrist. However, I am one who's experienced it, and I've done a lot of research, and I do have a degree in psychology. And it's something that needs to be talked about, and it is something it's bothered me a little bit. In 2007, I'm thinking about the military and the first responders and other people in this way, first of all. But you can get PTSD from being in an abusive relationship, a car accident, seeing something horrible. I'm sure many people got PTSD without even realizing it on 9/11, or anyone who's, seeing something that's just awful can actually have PTSD. And sometimes it's from multiple incidents, but sometimes it's just from one. Um, but what was I going to say? So I'm not telling anybody I'm some kind of medical expert. I'm simply saying I'm one who has the situation. And for autistics, this is also something that needs to be considered. So autistic children, and adults, of course, but children are very sensitive to things, can have PTSD. I mean, that's just a fact. And it is something that I want to get out there to say, look, autistics are very, very sensitive to certain things. So they can get PTSD much, much easier than normal neurotypes. So anybody sees this knows an autistic, just putting it out there into the world. It's something to look out for. Um, everybody's going to be different, but if you have a very, very severe case, it can really kind of like be like walking through hell, and it's terrible. Um, for the military people and for first responders and people who are constantly under high stress, where there's either blood and gore, loud noises, constantly having to see death and people mangled, and it's not pretty. Um, you know, those kind of people are likely more prone, aside from autistics. Um, so I went to a doctor in 2007, and they asked me what conditions I had, and when I mentioned PTSD, and the nurse just looked at me like, what's PTSD? And it just struck me. What do you mean? What's PTSD? You people don't know? Like, all medical professions that have to deal with doctors should understand, at the very least, the words post traumatic stress. I mean, but it really kind of like struck me, because it's just like, well, what if you're not going to the VA? I mean, what if you can't get to a VA? What if you're in an emergency situation? What if you aren't military and you're not going to the VA? Okay. This should be common language taught in nursing school. It should be something that's basic in every US medical hospital. Everybody should know that PTSD stands for post traumatic stress disorder, but I don't like adding the disorder. I mean, we're so far behind in understanding things, and that should not be the case. And I pray and I pray and I pray. I spent 2 years not really communicating to anybody else, but praying to God, please help everyone get caught up. Okay? Because PTSD can happen to anyone. And I'm not just referring about US soldiers, I'm talking about soldiers anywhere. Okay? And people in abusive relationships, and people who come out of regimes or have been in cults. I mean, it's all a form of PTSD, right? And sometimes it can be very, very severe. So, for police officers and other people, I mean, if you know someone or you're in a position that's really high stress, it can happen. That can happen to you too. Um, there's some of us who have that macho thing going on. And I may be a female, but yeah, I was raised up macho. So, you know, we don't flinch. We don't get phased by things. We don't get bothered by. We just continue on like good little soldiers. And especially if you are, military trained, it's just like they'll train this into you. They'll break you down, build you up, and train that into you. That's like you can't stop. You have to keep going. It doesn't matter how loud it is. It doesn't matter how scary it is to you. You're cold. You understand? They make you cold on purpose. Okay, it's on purpose. I'm not saying it's a terrible thing. I mean, I pray every day there's no war. Every day. No war today. Thank you very much. Okay? Right. Let's have a uh, civil, let's have a civil human race. Okay? I pray for that. A civil human race. I believe in their one race. End of story. What other people are told and think, and I don't know, but there's one human race. And as far as I'm concerned, we're all in it together. So that's that. But for PTSD specifically, I mean, you can look at the link, and you can just kind of sort of see what can happen. It can be extraordinarily severe. Okay, these things will stop you dead in your tracks. All right. Now, I had an incident at an ice hockey game. Drunk, loud, angry, stupid fan yelling at me, and in the concourse and saying all this nasty stuff, but he put his hand on me. Now, see, I have some training in some certain things. So for me, my first response is, assess the enemy. Okay. There are some people who are out there in the world who understand that kind of training. So, I came this close to, getting them in the Adam's app, and that's no fun. Okay. But it sent me into a shock that I didn't even realize until many days later. And I couldn't, like, things were going wrong in every kind of way for me. Um, and I started having some hallucinations of some things that, but I don't know, when the shit hits the fan, okay, you try and repress that. You try. You know what? And some people are really good at it and they get trained to do it. But if you don't deal with it though, okay, it's gonna take you down. And you don't want it to do that. But even through the best of training, there are possibilities when even still, it doesn't matter how mentally tough you are, it doesn't matter, it's gonna happen. And I went a very long time without having too many issues, but that set off a chain of events that really started causing me more and more issues. When it got to the point where I just didn't want to leave my house, I wasn't afraid to, right? I just didn't want to. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to deal with anybody. Um, there are people who want to say it's a spiritual thing, and yes, very well could be. I attended to that too, and I considered that, and I took action there too. But there was no such thing as me being, tough. Tough it up. Oh no, that just makes it worse. Okay, there's a point in time where people would be like, "Ah, you're so sensitive, toughen up." Okay, get away from me, right? And if they don't listen to you, then you can warn them, and they have to stop. So unfortunately, with military and other people, when you gotta go out in public, right? Loud noises will get you. I mean, I've been in a situation where like somebody dropped something in the kitchen and it was, like big, and it made big aluminum noise. And I mean, quite literally, I hit the deck. I'm serious. Just half a second, I hit the deck. I was looking for the enemy. I was looking for the problem, right? Like, am I gonna have to, are we, what's happening? Are we getting invaded? I don't know. Is there a hurricane? Is somebody fighting? That kind of thing. So, you know, I mean, it got me pretty good. And there are times when that will still happen, but I've learned some techniques. And it's important to acknowledge these things. I don't care how tough you are. Okay. Doesn't matter. The toughest of the tough. I mean, I've personally seen it happen. Someone who I consider just like this ridiculous hard badass who just, you know, never had any issues, kind of crumpled to the ground and stayed there for quite some time and didn't communicate with people and cried almost every day. So, I mean, I felt for that person, but it also kind of like woke me up a little, be like, all right, well, you know, I should bear that in mind and reach out for help a little more often before it gets too bad. Um, and I did try to do that, and I was turned away quite often. It was nothing, we don't have, there's nothing wrong with you, not, but, social service, anyone I could, support groups and so on. And I couldn't handle the support groups because of all the angry people. I'm like, oh no, I gotta take a break. I have to take a break. Um, you know, sometimes when the coping mechanisms fail, I just know, all right, well, I'm gonna have to walk away for a little while. I'm gonna have to reassess. I'm gonna have to look for a different kind of help. But don't ever give up. And that's another reason that I want people to know, anybody sees this, or you have a friend or anybody you love, yeah, and they want to talk to somebody, okay, who's actually been through it, okay, and who actually is still going through it. I'm right now in a residential uh, mental health rehabilitation situation, does provide me housing, and I do therapy once a week, and I do other things. Um, you know, I'm re-socializing, and I'm being exposed here and there to more and more different types of people, so that I can kind of test and see, okay, well, how am I doing? How am I doing? Am I, you know, what's the anxiety doing to me? How do I get this under control? I am not a big proponent of pills and medication. I got to be honest with everybody. I think sometimes it's just a crutch. I think that sometimes it's sort of like, well, no, you can't give me a pill, okay, to make the world go away, ladies and gentlemen. Big pharma, okay, doctors, anybody. It is just not possible. And I'll take anybody who wants to argue that point. I prefer the people who do that just do it maturely and come to me with some good points. But it just really isn't possible to take a pill and have the whole world go away. I mean, yeah, not even heroin or any of that other kind of crap either. I would know, but um, I mean, I experimented when I was young, but it's just not. That's not the way it is. And then, unfortunately, because some don't seek help or some don't understand what's happening to them, then there's a tendency to self-medicate, and self-medication is not wise in general, um, for pretty much everybody. I mean, you really should check it with someone else. You know what I'm saying? Um, so some medical professionals aren't really trying to hurt you. I'll be honest. I am suspicious sometimes of some things, and it's just like, well, who's running you? You know what I'm saying? Are the insurance companies running you, or is big pharma running you? Who? Okay, and some doctors I've learned. Well, I think I'm going to look elsewhere. Okay, insurance companies do have a process by which you can get a second opinion, and you are allowed to change doctors. So just try and think about that. And don't be shy about it. And even if doctors like, Mom, I've had this for 45 years, everything I do is great. You know what I'm saying? Walk away from that one, okay? Because that one's not going to listen to you. And that one's not going to be open to what you have to say. All that one's going to do is, well, I'm the doctor here, and you are not the doctor here, and I'm going to tell you that blah, blah, blah. Say no. Say no. Say no, doc. I don't think so. Okay? And you get yourself another doctor. Okay? Talk to your insurance company. Say this doctor won't listen to me for nothing. So, or go on your insurance company site and see if you can find another doctor. Ask for referrals. Okay? That you can get some referrals from a lot of different people. But, if you kind of buddy up, I believe in the PTSD buddy buddy system, which is another reason I'm doing this, because the PTSD buddy buddy system is, well, if you don't know somebody's got PTSD, well, you do now. Yeah, that'd be me. And I know a few, and you can quite literally look at support groups and other kind of things. You can ask, like, go to a VFW. Seriously, go places where you might find a military person. I guarantee you're likely to find somebody who understands the PTSD. I do believe in the buddy buddy system that way, because that way you have somebody who knows that you've been through it and you go through it and knows that, like, oh no, you can't just toughen up. You know what I'm trying to say? It ain't like that. Okay, I'm not afraid. It's not fear. has nothing to do with fear. It has to do with, a constant barrage of situations which are abusive. Okay. So, and plus going to doctors all the time. This is another thing. Like, I'm going to have lifelong PTSD, and the best I can do is learn coping mechanisms because I'm going to constantly be going to doctors. The end. I mean, as far as I know, I'm in remission from cancer. Amen. Hallelujah. I mean, that put me in the poorhouse, and I'm still in the poorhouse, which is a bit abusive as well. Case the U.S. government or anyone else wants to know how I feel about that, okay? But I know I'm gonna have to go to doctors because I recently got diagnosed with a movement disorder, and so I have a movement specialist, and it's pretty much we're not 100% sure, but there's pretty much no chance that it's not Parkinson's. So, because my symptoms don't fit anything else. So, Parkinson's, right? The rest of my life, I'm going to be dealing with medical situations, going back and forth to doctors and hospitals, and that in itself can cause PTSD, which is why people who have, ill loved ones or people who have to, go to doctors all the time, um, be aware of what PTSD is. Okay. Be aware that causes a stress in a variety of different ways. Can't go see your friends. Can't go do things like everyone else. Can't be spontaneous. You can't, you gotta pack the right kind of food. You gotta have the right kind of medication. It's got to be regimented, and you can't go too far away from specialists if you need specialists, whatever the case may be. um you know People in your family may not understand, and they're going to make things worse. People you thought were friends may not understand, and unfortunately might try and help you but make things worse. So, you know people go in and out of doctors a lot for whatever reason. um should just try. I'm not saying you have PTSD, you understand? I'm saying it's just something that you want to be aware of. So, try to find ways to cushion that. Okay. And so if you're going through a full blown, oh, I'm not even here kind of PTSD episode, one of the things that I do is close my eyes. Okay. So for me, I'm in soup. Like, I'm in some serious soup. And there are people about ready to die. You know what I'm trying to say? And everything is going wrong all at the same time. And I got to keep my shit together. So that's the last time I had a really, really bad, PTSD sort of episode. I'm right in the middle of a freaking war. And so to me, nothing else was going on. Uh, your rational mind's going to try and tell you, okay, but I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right. And that's good. I mean, do everything you can to kind of like, okay, well, 30 seconds ago, I wasn't in a war. So, I'm all right. I'm all right. Everything's all right. But what I do is just close my eyes, right? And I just slowly, right where I'm standing, right where I am, touch my chest. Okay. And I tell myself, you got to breathe. You got to breathe. You got to breathe. See, because your chest and you and your body, you can feel your own heat. You can, feel your own self. You are in the present. You yourself and your physical body are in the present. So, if your mind is taking you to some awful place, okay, that you really did not want to revisit for nothing in the world, okay, but it's happening to you anyway, right? Tell yourself you're all right. Remind yourself, well, just a few seconds ago, I was not in a war. And then touch your chest. okay, or touch your face. But I choose chest because it's kind of warm there, and like that's sort of a good focal point for comfort. A lot of people find that comforting. So you want to try and keep yourself calm, and it seems to work for me. Now, I'm not telling everybody it's going to work for you, but it is something to really try. And most specifically for the people who get triggered to the point where you feel like you're right in the middle of a very awful situation. It's repeating itself on you. So, you're some people don't understand. You're not even seeing what's in front of you in the reality of now. You're seeing something else. And it's very difficult and it's very frightening. And I mean, I get pissed off quite literally. Like, my first reaction to that is not necessarily fear, but just being pissed off. Like, I already been through this. You know what I'm saying? No. Oh, no, I'm not. What the hell got to do this again? Kind of, I'm done with it, but my mind apparently isn't. So apparently something else needed to be worked out, which is probably why these things there's some residual thoughts and feelings that, about what happened and why it happened. And, my thought is this is the most unfair bullshit, you know, why any human ever has to go through this, I get pissed off, to be honest, but that doesn't help the situation. So I learned, and it took me several years to learn. One, this is a comfort spot for people. Okay, right here, comfort. There's, there are methods where you touch. All right, I forget what it's called, but the touch comfort method, where you touch yourself. Okay, and your elbows, back of your elbow, side of your face. Okay, these are calming methods. They work with also autistics and people who have high anxiety levels. It's good to teach little children these things because, little children when they have separation anxiety, they like teaching people how to self-soothe is a good idea. But for me, this is my comfort. And when I touch myself, it doesn't matter what I'm seeing. It doesn't matter what I'm hearing, screams and loud noises and metal wrecking. And, you know, if I just be present enough of mind to just tell myself it's okay and touch right here and say, breathe, breathe. You have to breathe. You have to breathe. Just, you have to breathe. You're okay. You have to breathe. The fact that you are touching yourself and feeling a tactile situation, your brain starts to pick up on the fact, no, it's not what's happening. You're just, touching your comfort spot and you're in the now, and all that is not really happening. It's gone. Okay. And it's not hurting you. So eventually, like, you have these mechanisms in your brain with the tactile, it keeps you in your present. Okay. And your brain starts to pick up on that, like, well, wait a minute, I can't be in the middle of I can't be in the soup with all this going on because I'm touching my chest and I can feel it and I'm not right. So that's for more extreme examples when your stress is triggered to the point where you are now reliving a horrible situation. And so, that's for that. There are touch methods. I totally forget what it's called. I had it out, but if you guys can see my desk, geez, it's crazy. I need like 2 assistants and, like 48 hours in a day would be nice to get all this done, but I'm pushing myself a little because, I want to be sure that I do certain things before I lose the ability to speak very clearly. Apparently that's could happen to me with Parkinson's. So, although I will say I did I was on a webinar um, with Michael J. Fox and a couple other people. Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's, and the other day, and he was talking about his new book. But once you get used to it, some people may not understand what he was trying to say because the speech is a little. But once you start listening and getting used to it, so like, oh, okay, I get what he's saying. I mean, you just have to kind of like roll with it. Like, oh, okay. Maybe he repeats himself and maybe starts and stops. That's one of the things that I've started to notice is that I get stops and starts with my speech. And it happens to me with writing. I put my pen down and I'm like trying to, mentally coax my hand. Hey, start writing. Hey, like, woo, wakey, wakey there. It doesn't happen all the time, but it'll happen. And speech stops and starts. Like I want to say something, and I'm telling my brain, "Hey, speak, say words, move lips," and just it'll get stuck. So I just don't fight it. And it seems like if I don't fight it, it kind of releases. So, but we're talking about PTSD. Um, you know, People can get PTSD from accidents and from being in abusive relationships, which I pray for all those people that both sides of that relationship are, uh, you know, come to terms with whatever it is that's got them in the situation they're in and get past it. And, that love finds its way out of that because, you know, abusive relationships are no fun. I've been, I've had that issue. Um, so when it comes to the complex PTSD, usually what'll happen, and it's not all the time, but usually what'll happen is, you may end up getting a diagnosis for just PTSD. But as the years go by, you know, you may start just building to that point. It's just like, well, I've tried everything, when it comes to fireworks. If I know they're coming, I put the range gears on. What do you call them? Well, people call them different things. If you've ever carried a weapon, um, or you're a member of the NRA or anything like that, I'm finding it in my little bag here. Well, these are my winter ones, and like cats. This was a gift, but I can't. It muffles. I mean, it muffles the sound really well. Um, but as an autistic, as someone who's sensitive to noises, I've also learned to have these around just in general. Um, Range ears and people who work in high volume uh, places also use them, but they're you know they they make the sound much less harsh. No, I don't own a firearm. So, unfortunately, suicide is one of the side effects of both PTSD and uh, autism. So, I have to be abundantly aware of myself all the time and when I'm around and all this other kind of things. Um, but having those around when I know they're coming does help, you know. Um, Sometimes people who get PTSD, there's this terrible little cycle that'll start, and it's awful, but there's a way out of it, and you need to know that there's a way out of it, and you need to trust me, and you need to, anyone who sees this, you need to trust me. There's a way out of this. And the cycle, I mean, is if you have children, all right? Little children and little children, but just children in general, but we'll just say little children, tend to make an awful lot of noise. Okay. Now, some people do have kind of like their different parenting styles. So some children make a little less noise and they're a little more, you know, they pay more attention to the authoritative figure because the authoritative figure lets them know, oh, no, no, you don't run this house, I do. But not everybody has the same parenting style. So kids, they want to play, they make noise, they scream and yell. You got more than one. He's looking at me funny, mom, dropping things on the floor, whatever. Someone who has been diagnosed with PTSD and recently had, is back from a situation where that traumatic and high stress situation gave them that post-traumatic stress. I have a very hard time with children, and it's a terrible, awful, horrible cycle of guilt and then okay, well, I'm just gonna have to suck it up because the kids, and then the kids make more noise and loud, and they touch you and they wake you up in the middle of the night and all these things, and they're triggering you left and right, and you're getting triggered. You're like, yeah. One, work. Tell someone. Okay. Social worker, you tell someone you love, okay, or you tell a neighbor that you have pretty decent relationship with, or you tell some kind of online community that you talk to, or a coworker that on occasion you have no choice but to spend time away from the children. Okay. And that's where the guilt starts coming in. Like, I want to be, and then, if your other caregiver, okay, hopefully you have another caregiver, who's also responsible for the children, needs to understand fully and completely, I'm going to need you, to understand and, help me put a plan in place where I can, go somewhere where there are not children, or where there aren't any loud noises, or where there aren't a ton of things that will trigger. And, I don't know how anyone else is as a parent, but my children are deceased, but, my kids made an awful lot of noise. And I worked on that with them. So, but I explained to them just like they're regular people. I talk to them like they're regular people. Oh, I did the baby talk when they're little, but they're like regular people. You just have to not use big words and get too nerdy. Otherwise you lose their attention like 4 seconds after you say something. But as I was like, okay, mommy has a situation sometimes where if you get too loud, it hurts. Ouchie. And when your kids experience an ouchie, they understand ouchie, right? So let me not understand whether it's a mental or physical ouchie, but they understand ouchie. So, give kids a little more credit and be honest with them and let them know sometimes they get an ouchie if you're too loud. And, maybe you go outside and play. Maybe the neighbor watches the kids for a little while. Okay. Maybe you have your quiet space, your quiet room. Okay. Some people, I've had to adjust, and that's put me further into a bad situation. So I've had to adjust, and I've had to adjust too quickly, and I've had to adjust without a support system, which, I could go on and on about that, but that's just the truth, and that's the fact, and it sucks ass, and I'm very unhappy about it, and sometimes I get pissed off at God about it. Be honest. I'm straight honest about some stuff. I don't go around BSing people. And, I think the conversations need to be started about some things, and they need to be honest. And sometimes you don't want to say, hurt feelings, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, in order to come to an understanding and in order for people to help each other, they kind of need to know how, and they kind of need to know what it is. If you don't say something, you know, people aren't going to know why are you like that. I'm like, because the kids are dragging things all over the floor and they're through things and woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You see what I'm saying? So, and that you have to understand some people aren't going to be sensitive like you are. So, you have to say, well, this is me and this is what's happening with me, and I am having a lot of difficulty overcoming this, so I need to take a little break. And maybe you go to a hotel, maybe you go to a friend's house, but have plans. Okay, have a plan here and there. Maybe grandma's, maybe a neighbor who, and like, oh sure, the kids can come over here. um and have backups. Two neighbors, a family member and a neighbor. Um, there might be a childcare option that, just like, okay, well, single parents are going to have a situation. So maybe there's a childcare option you can afford. Maybe there's, some nice person down the street who has an empty nest and doesn't mind, you know. Um, a lot of times I don't mind. One of the things that people don't understand, and they think, well, that's weird. It's a conflict. And so it's like, no, it's an ever changing situation. So just like all things. So, like when I go to, I'll just say an ice hockey game, but also concerts. Sometimes, get little kids behind you and they're all kicking chairs and, they get all excited and they're making all this noise. And it never bothers me. Okay. But that's because I'm not triggered. You get what I'm saying? If I'm triggered, I probably wouldn't even be able to walk into the building. Okay. I probably wouldn't even be able to get into my car to go to the game. I probably wouldn't even be able to get on the I probably wouldn't even be able to leave my house. See? So when I'm not triggered, it's fine. When I am, that's it. I'm gonna have to wait this one out. And I'm going to have to use those coping mechanisms. And I'm going to have to figure out how to, keep, to the best of my ability, the stress from affecting my physical health, which is part of the problem. And it is why PTSD is considered severe, and it can be, is because, these things start affecting your health. Okay. Your heart, your blood pressure, your, your neurochemicals will start firing off and they're ready for emergency. Unfortunately, that puts you in such a high state of alertness that it can actually shorten your life by a great deal. So that's severe cases. But even for milder cases, start to know yourself and, start to be honest with other people. Be like, I wish I had the kahunas to walk out that door and get in the car and drive to the mall and get out of the car and go to the mall. Okay. I wish I did, but I'm not going to be able to do that. And, some people may pick up on that and just say, well, you can come with me. How about I drive? People who want to help other people with PTSD is don't judge. Don't think that don't think because you don't know. No, you don't. Nobody knows. Okay. Nobody knows. Some of us have familiar situations. And so we have a better, ability for compassion, but don't think that okay. Because can be debilitating and it sucks. And, it is extremely difficult, but just know though, that if you're honest, okay, the people are going to start picking up on that. The second, if you get a diagnosis, start going online and looking for support groups and looking for resources and, let some of your friends and some of your neighbors know, it's like, well, this is what's happening to me. So I may have trouble in these areas. like the loud noises, the lawnmowers. I lived this one place. This guy was mowing the lawn and had the thing out all the time. Part of that's autism, but holy moly, I'm surprised I didn't get triggered from all that. Work with others, okay, and just be upfront and just say, I might have trouble getting in the car. Like my mind wants to go in the car, but my body, like something is stopping me from doing it. And it's not necessarily always fear. You understand? It's a gut reaction, and you and your mind need to start getting into a rhythm together so that you can overcome that. Um, so that's the kind of thing that is really, really important. Know that you can overcome it. And even if you still have little issues here and there, like well, for one thing, I'm a natural born goalie and I was an athlete for, in my 20s. But I had to make a decision to, kind of like keep my life in the state of Maryland because my parents were one generation older and I was the responsible one in the house. And so, both of them started becoming, into the elderly, and both of them had illnesses. I don't regret that. I'm simply just saying that, any kind of athletic notion I had to let go of. And it did kind of suck, but and then kids, and this is just so I was fine with it. But your mind and your body, okay, there's a certain rhythm you can have with each other, the two things working. All right. So a lot of times with PTSD, there's cognitive dissonance, there's conflict. Okay. There's, the what if syndrome. Don't do that to yourself. Okay. What if, what if, what if? What if nothing? It's done. It's past. Okay. I mean, unless it's something that you're going to repeat, you don't do the what if. You just do, okay, well, this is what's happened. So here's what I do now. Here's the situation. And they people will be resistant. I mean, there will be things going on in the head that are not going to make sense to people who are not going through that. So for people who know someone with PTSD, just understand that it's like you're not going to understand. Their mind is not working in the same fashion that it was. Okay. And it takes a little while to unravel, and it takes a little while to get good, and it takes a little while for them to kind of, build. You want to try and build, but you don't build too fast. You understand? And this is one of the things. Okay. I've known two people specifically, and another three who I've known, I've heard of through coworkers and other people who were getting treated for post-traumatic stress, and got to this point where they were functioning pretty well, and they decided sort of on their own that oh, everything's all right, I'm good to go, I can just bam smack start my life running again, bam, get into it, let's go do it, woo, I'm back in the life, I'm back in the game. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And the two that I knew, within 2 months of going back to work and stopping seeing the therapist every week, this person committed suicide. Crashed really badly. And there weren't really, I didn't talk to this person all the time. So I did not have an awareness of like, oh, this is a crash. 2 months, committed suicide. And then, the other one, uh, a couple of us co-worker, a couple of us who were around this person, you know, were a little concerned because, um, like I did not go in this person's house, but um, there was sort of this understanding after it happened that this person stopped taking their medication and um, just by themselves out of the blue, and started going out and drinking and partying because they thought everything was going to be fine, and you know ended up overdosing um, on, I'm not really sure. I think it was like cocaine, which is hard to overdose on, but I think just because of medications and things like that. But once that, so that person was in the hospital, and there were a couple of us who tried to tell the people in the hospital when we visited, look, make sure he's on, you know, make sure that he's seeing the psychiatrist, make sure that he's seeing the hospital, therapist, psychiatrist. And that didn't happen. And so the very day that he got out, he walked in front of a bus on purpose. So, and then the other people, I'm not going to get into their stories. And some of that's private for people, but, these were all people that were diagnosed. Okay. And that's the hard part there is, you'll start getting some momentum and you'll start feeling okay. So I don't care who you are, and I don't care how tough you are, and I don't care, what you think you can handle. Just know that this is not something you can rush. You have no choice but to slow down. You have no choice. Okay, right? Work is going to be yelling at you, right? These people are going to want you to come out and do things, and the kids are going to be giving you guilt trips because of this and that and the other. I know. And they're going to be in your face, and this is going to happen. And then people are like, well, how come, you don't want to come and, talk anymore? And it's just like, because I can't. I can't. Like, you know, but it is possible to overcome it. And if you have, lifelong complex like I do, it's a series of, it's work. Okay. And it's a series. And if you have a situation where you are having too much pressure and guilt put on you by those who might not understand, and unfortunately, children count, um, maybe you find yourself a mental health rehabilitation. Okay. I'm not saying check yourself into a hospital. I have so much bad things to say about the mental health system in the United States of America that I could be talking, for 36 hours straight live stream. And I'm sure there are many others, and not to mention the VA. Okay. But at the very least, okay, one, you might want to consider applying for Social Security disability, and don't wait to do that. Okay. Because you're going to need that security. Okay. Trust me. Um, but also, like I said, have some support people, and maybe you have some, friends that have some property, like maybe they have a timeshare and they let you have their, 2 week timeshare, or they have a cabin, or they have like, an extra apartment, something, and you live there and you visit your children for short periods of time until you can tolerate. Okay. Never stop taking your medication. Never. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care, conspiracy theorists. I don't care. I don't care what anybody's telling you. It's bad for you. It's bad for you. It doesn't matter. Okay. Because if you've taken it, those chemicals have been interacting with your body, and they have started to intertwine with all of your chemicals and all of your physicalness and all of your blood and your bone and your neurons and the neurochemicals and the chemistry. You understand? So if you immediately stop taking medication, particularly that of a mental health variety, okay, what happens is your body starts to hate you because it wants to be back to normal, which is what started happening when you started taking those medications. So your brain, okay, will immediately go into protection mode. And unfortunately, what will happen is we'll start the fight or flight. And you're either going to fight, okay, or you're going to fly. And you're going to go off and do weird things, okay, and you're going to try and get away from every situation that you possibly can, and you're going to try and be by yourself, and it's just going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and nope, you don't have any wings on this plane anymore. You're going down, and not a damn thing is going to be able to stop you. Okay, so this is another reason you don't ever do that. I don't care. I don't care what kind of meds, but particularly those, given to you for mental health. Okay, people may say, oh, don't take those and they're bad for you. Don't stop taking them because you start feeling better. Because what's going to happen is far worse than what you had in the first place. You don't want that. It sucks. Most people don't come back from it. Some people end up in institutions, never again to do anything that they would consider normal because of what it does to you. Okay. So I don't always suggest pills. I'm not a big fan of pills at all, but I am saying that not the fan of pills, do take medication. One, I take Prevacid, prescription strength, not the counterfeit over the counter. That's another reason I swear I don't know. I don't want to be a politician, but I want to be talking to some politicians. Like, I just want to get all up into the policymakers and all these, just get all up on them. You have no idea how badly I want that, right? And just be like, what? Hi, here's the truth. What the hell are you? No, take that bullshit out. Hi, bam, smack, wakey, wakey, right? Just want to smack them in the forehead. Hey, wake up there, pal. Yeah, somebody's selling you a bill good. This is the bullshit that's actually happening in your country. All right. Don't listen to the suck ups. That's how I feel. I don't mind talking about my own government out loud. I don't care. They're not going to shut me down. Hopefully one or two of them listen. But today's topic is PTSD, and it really isn't funny, and it really is something that people need to tell other people, like, look, I get PTSD, and this is not for me. Okay, I know I used to do all this stuff, and I know I used to be like this. I know I used to, be without, like, I can never ever be taken down, and so on and so forth. And the fact of the matter is, everybody can. It doesn't matter who you are. And PTSD will mess with your head pretty badly. So that's why some people, they think they're okay. And also, they may go to a psychiatrist or they may go to a therapist, but they don't go to a regular doctor. And now, see, that doesn't work out either. You understand? Because the regular doctor is going to check your vitals, going to check how certain functions in your body. And if you secrete too many stress hormones, you can kill, quite literally, stress hormones over a period of time can build up. And like I said, the dopamine and the serotonin get way off balance. Okay. And it happens. That's slowly. So you may think you're fine, but then slowly but surely you're not, and nobody's really noticing that you're having this situation. And so you have to realize that. But ask for help. I don't care who you are, ask for help. If people aren't saying what you need help with, keep asking. Just keep asking. Just keep asking. Just keep asking. Somebody along the way is going to know something about things that are related to PTSD. I mean, you should be talking to doctors. People, I know. I grew up with parents who just absolutely didn't trust doctors for nothing. well, I've had some experiences. It's just like, well, I know why. Okay, because there's a couple of doctors. I had a sleep doctor. I found out that this guy got arrested for, writing bad scripts and screwing his patients. Like, oh shit, Great. Well, pieces of junk, right? Some people get caught up in things and it overwhelms them, and then they do stuff that's just not very civil or friendly to others. But some people, what the hell? Get out of the medical field, assholes. Okay, there are plenty of people like that, but not everybody's like that. Not all doctors are like that, and it is something that, I also like. The second I see a politician, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming for you. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go into DC for that. But I think I'm gonna hit up the Annapolis State House first and try in Maryland for some things first. Um, but I'm bringing this up is one you can see that there's a real person who gets it. Like, something could really get to you, and it's not something you ever had issues before. I started having trouble driving a car. I was feeling like, oh my god, it was very, very difficult for me to leave my house, get in the because I kept thinking, well, what happens if I have an episode and I'm driving a car? I mean, I could hurt somebody. What happens if I get triggered and you know I'm not seeing the car? I'm like in the soup, and there's people dying and shit. So right, I was worried more than afraid. So worry and fear can go together, but um, it was not fun for me, and it's not fun for other people. And even if you're big and bad and tough, it can happen to you. And so, you know, be aware of certain signs. If you know somebody who's like just showing some signs, you are not allowed to diagnose them. Okay. I am not going to be diagnosing anyone. Okay. Very clearly is what I'm saying. But I know the signs and I can see certain things. So I can, at the very least, kind of nudge. Maybe you want to talk to me. You have a few things on your mind. What's going on in there? And, you know, you, I can, at least get them to open up. I mean, if there's nothing that you think you can do, you can at least try. But don't push too hard. Okay, just gently. But you can sort of say, well, maybe, how about you just go see, a therapist to make sure that you're all good with who and how you are. You may not need to say, oh, well, I think you got PTSD. You got to go to the. Some people aren't going to want to hear that. And some people are going to need to be coaxed. But don't ever give up trying. Okay. And, try not to push too hard. Pushing autistics and pushing people with PTSD is a really bad idea. But, don't let up. Gentle, nudge, 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 right? Getting a diagnosis is important, so you do have to actually go see a doctor, and, you have to sit through some talk. But finding people who understand is probably much easier. And, asking people like me and tons of other people who, may be out there on the internet, what did you do that helped you? And I can give you tons of advice. Like I said, the comfort touching. I mean, even if I'm not having like any kind of really bad, serious PTSD situation, I still will occasionally just throughout the day a comfort touch, because what it does is it like brings you right to where you are. And so you can see whether or not you feel safe. The people with PTSD often will say things like, I don't feel safe. Okay. And so this is something that it would be good if the average everyday human being, particularly in the United States where I live, understood. I mean, the more it gets out there, the more we understand each other, and the easier it is for us to help each other. You know, people who've been in abusive situations and likely have PTSD, and of course autistics, will often use the term "I don't feel safe." You understand? So, from the physical perspective, you might be looking at him like, "What the hell is this nut job talking about?" Just standing there, no one's around him. No, okay, it's safe in a completely different kind of way. It's a safe that doesn't necessarily mean right now, at the time they're talking to you, they don't feel safe. You understand? They could be in unstable living situations. Okay, they could be in, a work situation where there's abusers. They could be in a situation where past trauma worked its way in, and has pretty much just worked its way in and said, "No, you're going to be dealing with it right now. Too bad, sir." Okay, these things all happen, so keep an eye out on that. But if you run across anybody who appears like, okay, we're not hurt, physically, and it doesn't seem like any, right? You're not standing in front of traffic, and you're not, you know, they seem physically safe. Okay, likely they aren't. All right, so maybe take them to the ER. Okay, and help them check in and say, this person keeps telling me they're not safe. Most people at emergency ERs these days kind of understand if a person says not safe is not, oh, call the police. You understand? They might call the police, because there could be an abusive situation going on they don't want to go back to. But they're likely going to get you some kind of consult with, a mental health professional. Not all hospitals have mental health professionals, but they might be able to get you to one, or refer you to one, or help you hook up with social services. So you can't think that never think that you can't be overtaken by it. Never think that you're always going to be okay. And even if you go months and months, um, if you still have lingering things, many, many years later, like, for a lot of people, it is fireworks will do it. Backfires of cars. Sometimes it's like the way that you're touched. Like you come up and somebody smacks you in the back and you don't hear them coming. Suddenly, oh, you're in this stressful wall of not feeling safe. And they have no idea. So, um, you know, habituation doesn't typically work. I don't give a crap what kind of science is out there. I've looked through a lot of science. People will do that with allergies. Oh, you can habituate. Bull crap. You understand? Right. There are rare few people who can actually do that. You understand? Um, I've known lots of people with allergies, like, well, okay, you're gonna try and habituate me to PTSD, right? I just want you to know I got tons of lawyers, and you can go right ahead and do it, but you're gonna lose your fucking shirt, and I'm gonna put you out of business. Okay, habituating when it comes to PTSD is the wrong kind of therapy. Okay, anybody I've ever talked to who has had PTSD and recovered, which is the goal, to just totally get over it. Some of us, it's just kind of not going to be the case, but we can learn and we can get into this rhythm to understand how we react to things. So knowing yourself really well is important, and um, being honest with yourself, right? Like, I'm a tough gal. You understand? I'm a tough gal. I was the rock for my family. I used to have guns. Now they're just bingo wings. you know. Um, I have trouble because of my meds, and my face swells up because of steroids, and it's just but I've learned, to kind of deal with it. But you know, I I was the one people come to, in emergencies, and people, like, oh, and people constantly say, Mia, you're so strong, and oh, you're such an inspiration. And I I kind of really started to not like that at all. And it was not helpful to me. And it may have been helpful to those people, but it just wasn't the truth. It's just like, no, man, there are times where like I go into my house and I just like curl up on the floor and I cry and snot and I whine, and yeah, I definitely want cheese with that. You know what I'm trying to say? I love cheese, although I'm doing keto because I have no other choice when it comes to food, because my diet is just so limited. Okay. So people need to be careful about putting other people up on pedestals, and people need to be a little more realistic. Everything is a hard time for everybody. And I know that some people really praise people who say there's no such thing as a bad day. And what I'm going to say is, I prefer to say it this way: there are such things as good days, because when you say there's no such thing as a bad day, somebody whose life is in the total shit bomb and they have been beaten down and abused and lied to and, shuttled from place to place and given the runaround, and, it's just stomped on and stomped on and stomped on. Okay. They don't need you to be putting that guilt on them. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you say, oh, there's no such thing as bad days, bullshit. I say bullshit. People are really, really sick and people are really, really have a hard time. There are such things as bad days. You understand? What you do is figure out how to work your way through it. Bullshit. People get cranky. People will get pissy. People get angry. People will lash out. People sit there and cry. Okay. I mean, who's going to have a good day when you're out with all your friends and suddenly you shit and piss your pants because of something that's happened? Yeah, that's a bad day, folks. You got to embrace the fact that there are such things as bad days. And it's natural and normal. Don't be telling me there's no such thing as bad days. Wrong. Okay. You are setting an impossible standard for people, and it actually hurts them. So instead of saying that, what you say is there are such things as good days, because that's positive and that builds and it builds up. You understand? I know how to build better than most. So be aware of these things in all your things. But anybody with PTSD, feel free to make comments here. Anybody knows somebody, um, you know, uh, try your best to be understanding and try your best to understand. Well, I don't know what they're going through, but I'm going to try and listen, and I'm going to try and back off a little, and I'm just going to try to, make sure maybe I can just from afar make sure they're taking their meds, or maybe I can, you know, uh, do the grocery shopping for them, or take the kids for them, or, help them find resources. A lot of people who are in this shit, they don't have time. Their brains aren't looking for resources. Okay, I don't know how many times people told me, oh, you can call this and call that. I'm like, call that. Like, I literally want to kill myself, asshole. What the fuck am I going to call for fucking help for? Do you understand? This is truth. I'm giving you truth, and I'm not going to bullshit anybody, because this is the kind of frame of mind that can happen. Like, people get so down, like, and some people don't have internet, some people don't have phones, some people, they don't know what to say to somebody. So don't just tell them, oh, there's this resource and there's that resource, and you get to help them do it. Take some of the load off for them. Okay, we're meant to bear up with one another and learn how to use building words. Learn how to make sure they understand, yes, you can. And it's going to suck sometimes, and you're going to fall over sideways. And if somebody, catches something on the stream, like they're talking about, like, oh my God, this is futile and useless, I've done it many times and nobody's said shit to me, right? But if you see that, you jump in. You don't try and be too saccharine or too sweet, but you say, having a rough time, are you? You know, um, but what's going on? You want to talk about it? If they don't want to do it in public, give them, DM on Twitter, whatever. I'm not going to go all total public media. I've got Twitter account, I've got YouTube, I've got a blog, and I'm in person. So, but I'll give people my email, and my email is always open. Anybody wants to call me, and has any kind of situation that I've talked about. I'm not likely going to give you too much advice unless you ask, like, what kind of coping skills are there, but I can direct you to some resources, and I can tell you, look, this is what I found. Like, these people are going to put you on a wait list, and you're going to be there, and they're overburdened and so on. So maybe try this route, and here, maybe I can, send you in this direction. Here's a list of things, and maybe making phone calls for them here and there might help, just to gather some information, because some people will get to the frame of mind they don't fucking want to live. You understand what I'm trying to say to you? And they're barely making it through the day, and all they wanted to do is end. So, do you really think that they're going to be getting on the fucking phone and trying to call resources for themselves? No, they're not. Wakey, wakey, right? Sometimes that needs to be done for them. Okay. So, I'm an honest kind of person, and I'll tell you straight out. So, this is just the PTSD. There's lots of signs and symptoms, but like I said, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to sit here and go over all these things. But I did put the link up, and I am a person who has PTSD. So if you want to email me, or um, you're having trouble in the middle of the night, I usually hear my Twitter even if I'm sleeping. I'm not telling everybody, but as hard as it is, reach out for help. And if it seems like you're not getting help, keep reaching out for help. And if it seems like you're not getting help, keep reaching out for help. And some people, they're not going to understand, and they're going to think you're ridiculous, and your response to things are silly, and that you're just being a whiny baby or blah blah blah. And so what you're going to have to do is just, nut up, boob up, and be like, bullshit. I'm an individual human who needs some freaking help, and though you don't understand, there is somebody who does. So don't listen to that crap, because it's just wrong. Okay. And other people, don't be doing that to them. Okay. No, 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 no. The more you keep stuff inside, like later on, it's going to kaplow, and then you're toast. And some people don't live through it. Either it kills them by all the stress and the medical things that it causes, or they end up killing themselves. So, bad news. Good news is, I'm telling you, because I also have it, that there is a way to slowly but surely kind of get your mind and yourself and understand, how to take those little steps, and, getting therapy, getting in a support group, reaching out, letting your loved ones know, suck it up, suck it up. Okay. The truth is, you are not weak because you need help. Okay. You're strong because you asked for it. So take that other crap out of you and everyone else. Understood? It's not the truth. You're not weak because you need help. You are strong because you asked for help. It takes gut, it takes courage. Okay. So this is just an awareness video. And, hopefully somewhere along the way, somebody sees it and kind of, understands that I'm a real human being who has this situation. And I mean, I've gotten my ass kicked here and there. But I've learned, and I've kept that in mind, that I want to just go kaplow. I'm in that kind of stage where I just want to be like, I'm feeling better, and I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go do that. But I'm not going to do that to myself. So slowly but surely, I'm doing things. And I'm going to keep going slowly but surely because I don't want to have that negative side of things. And I've already tried to commit suicide once. So clearly, you know, I need to be careful. And so I think that everyone else should. I mean, you can be the most positive person in the world. So many people praising me. Oh, you're so positive. You're saying, well, they were wrong, right? So I kind of had this. I have this hard ass way, this like hard rock way of like being positive, and a lot of people don't understand it. So they try and be like, "Oh, don't say that." And so I stopped talking to people because all they were doing was just making everything worse, right? Hopefully anybody who sees this or anybody who loves someone who has PTSD like gets the fact that I'm being honest and saying it's work, but there is a way to overcome it. There's a way to live with it. There's a way to understand how to, put up some safeguards and walls for yourself so that these things don't trigger you anymore. I'm not saying habituating because it's different, but I am saying that there is hope and it's hard as hell to see. And sometimes you're walking around for years like, oh my God, what else is going to happen? Oh, geez, Louise, there goes the job. All right. Suddenly you're just defeated, right? So there's a way out of it. And it means being honest. And it means sucking it up and asking for help. And if somebody's trying to tell you, well, there's these resources and those resources, I'm like, well, freaking help me make those phone calls clearly. I really don't give a shit if I live right now. You understand? You quite literally, this is where these people are in some cases. So, no, they ain't kidding. They ain't trying to get attention. That's where they are. So, don't be telling them, oh, there's resources. Oh, call this person or call that person. Oh, how come, why don't you go see a therapist? Fuck the therapist. The fuck the therapist gonna goddamn do for me? You understand? This is the kind of mental status that these people are in. So, get off your, take away the rosy sunglasses and all this other kind of thing. Okay. But sometimes they need a different kind of love. You understand? Sometimes they need a different kind of perspective. For me, I didn't give a shit at a certain point. Like, fuck it, I'll just waste away and die. I don't care. Like, I stopped taking showers, whatever. What the hell? How, people have been like this to me and nobody's understood. And I've been asking for help for years and nobody's like, fuck it. It was exactly what happened. And at some point, I did my nerdy thing and I went and looked up to see what kind of, over the counter medications I could take and how much to, that would counteract with each other, that would cause my body to, pretty much get confused and stop working. And, I was also going to make the cut. But what I took was so bad that I was down and I couldn't make the cut. Like it downed me quick, but it didn't kill me, and it really should have scientifically. So maybe I'm here so I can, put this out there so someone else learns from me and hears it from me. Someone who's been there. It does suck, and if it goes on for years and years, at some point they're just gonna let themselves go, and they're just gonna, failure to thrive, or they're gonna commit suicide. So PTSD is a very serious thing. People need to, talk about it more. Look up resources. I do suggest that you do not just, go to Healthline. Don't just go on the Twitter. Don't be looking on the Facebook. You understand? Oh, my brother's cousin had it, and he said no. Okay. Places like the VA. I mean, they deal with people with PTSD. Places like hospitals who have we put out a lot of mental health research articles and do a lot of research. The Mayo Clinic, places that these things are checked. They can't just put any bullshit out because they could lose their jobs. You understand? So, I mean, if somebody checks it and they're just putting some BS out, it's like they're out the door. And some of them, I mean, depending if you're a government employee and you put some stuff up on a government website that was never checked and, this is crap, I mean, they could actually have charges filed against them. So, you know, I know a lot of people who know me might not trust the government, but what I'm going to tell you is that this is the fact. Okay. You do have to look at good resources. And you have to talk to real people who have really had the same situation, who have PTSD. And for lifelong, it's like, well, the best I can do is just learn the best coping mechanisms that I can. And, try to, bring my ears to me if somebody's going to be shooting off fireworks. But, I live in Yahooville and all the bumpkins they love to shoot off fireworks for no reason whatsoever at like 2 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. So I never really get advance notice. And, that causes some issues sometimes. And I, over the years got into the habit of going to smaller venues for music and for ice hockey because it's less stimulation, it's less noisy. Um, so, if you're a fan of music and the PTSD is like getting you and you got all this, I will say that, I went to AHL games and I went to a few college games, ice hockey, and I went to smaller venues um, for music. So I didn't necessarily have to stop seeing live music, but I did have to kind of go smaller because there's less stimulation. And um, that helped me. And then the other thing is pet therapy. I'm going to stop talking here in a second, but pet therapy, particularly when it comes to PTSD and autistics, equine therapy. Okay. The very first time I ever got anywhere near a horse, it was really, really early in the morning, and sort of like everything was kind of waking up. So it was quiet. And then there's this, big thing. And just like instantaneously, there's like one eye outside there looking at me. And somebody handed me the little brush. And I just said, just brush, just brush, just brush. And they were, soaping them down, watering, just brush as I'm doing this. So I'm just brushing, right? And it's just so calm, right? Like you're far away from the hell, you understand? And it starts to go away and it starts to become less of an issue. And so, and horses generally, I mean, most horses that are not wild horses, I'm talking about like um, horses to get ridden often. They're just, it's kind of like they understand, like, oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's it. Rub down that one. Hey, can you give me one of those carrots over there? I like that. That's nice. Okay. They themselves are very calm most of the time. So it's kind of like, you're kind of hooking up with the horse a little bit and you're in peace and quiet and you're doing something that is useful. Not only you're helping, brush down the horse and clean the horse and, but you're understanding peace again. And the more that you get that feeling, the more your body will um, start helping to pull you in those directions so that you just kind of build to having that more and more often. And then once you know what it feels like, your body starts to sort of communicate with you. So I do suggest equine therapy for anybody with PTSD for sure. Not sometimes it's riding, sometimes it's riding, but if you like riding can be traumatic if you get tossed. So if you know somebody that's there are a lot of horse farms probably all over the place. They probably wouldn't mind, like, yeah, sure, meet me at like, 5 in the morning and you can help me get the horses ready for the day. Um, and you just watch somebody ride or whatever. Uh, I'm sure that there are plenty of horse farms that really wouldn't mind having someone just come hanging out. I mean, so even if you're not going through an organization, just call up a few horse farms and say, hey, my buddy's got PTSD, but you know, I've been around horses; they're pretty calm. You think maybe you can come and do this, do that. Watching water, um, also hours on end, also seems to be something that helps your body recover. And it's taking the stress off of you, and therefore, so all the psychosomatic things can be happen. Your chemicals are not, you're not having stress endorphins released. So that's a step toward recovery, right? But there is hope, and there are ways. And if you run across people who don't understand, keep asking, keep asking. I mean, to check everywhere you possibly can. Ask your doctor, ask your friends, just keep asking, keep checking, just saying, I still need help. I'm still not safe. I still need help. I'm still not safe. That not safe feeling also comes from your deficiency needs are not met. Okay. That's an abusive situation, which unfortunately the US government doesn't understand that. They have put many of their citizens in an abusive situation. And, I'll die trying to turn that around. Okay. For now, PTSD is serious. Medications do help. Um, Talking to somebody, and you really should talk to somebody who is really good with people and a really good listener and non-judgmental. Okay. But trained therapists, there are people nowadays, now it's happening, more and more people are being trained specialists for people who actually have trauma and PTSD. So, you know, suck it up. Sometimes if you don't have insurance, there's sometimes you get sliding rates, sometimes you can um there are ways to do it. Or, it really comes right down to it. Just have someone start what do you call it? Where you collect money for people. There's so much stuff on the internet. I've been on the internet since like forever, and I lose track of it. Um, Whatever, where you raise money for people, just a couple $100 even, so that they can see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Sometimes churches will pay for it. Sometimes maybe a friend will just pay for it, but don't don't think that it's insurmountable. Um, and if you really get to the point where you just don't give a crap anymore, I mean, I don't know. Dial 911 instead of killing yourself, and you'll probably hate it, and it'll be a pain in the ass for days, weeks, months, years. Like, the fuck, no, this is helping me, and I should just off myself. It's just a crappy life gonna be. You understand? I'm telling you, it can take some time. It's not gonna be like tomorrow's gonna be great or tomorrow's gonna be great. Okay, but just know there are good days. I promise. So when your chemicals are all messed up, you have no way of judging. So it's another reason why people have to intercede for each other. That's another reason why people have to help each other. That's another reason why people have to make phone calls for each other. Because when your chemicals are all messed up, like, you understand? They're not thinking like you are. So people who want to help other people gotta understand, like, if they're way down, they're not thinking like you at all. So stop thinking that they think like you. Okay? Intercede. And try and stick with them through the long haul. I mean, maybe you're a friend, you call them every week. Maybe it's just like, okay, well, for next year, I'm coming over to your house on the weekend. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes. So, I hope everybody or somebody has gotten something out of this. Um, always ask for help. Always do some research. Don't give up on each other. And, like I said, you don't really want to get to the point where I got, because yeah, I just didn't. What did I care if anybody helped me? Just lay there and die. Who cares? Apparently nobody was what was happening with me. So, you know, I did try to commit suicide. Didn't work out. But do everything you can in your own power. If you're in a really bad situation to cling on to, okay, well then hell, I'm just gonna have to call 911, or I'm just gonna go, have to call an ambulance, or not, because sometimes you can call an ambulance without 911. But regardless, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go knock on the neighbor's door and like, well, we don't really know each other that well, but I don't know. I need social services or a doctor or a police officer or something, because I've been lying in my own filth for about 6 months, and no one's really seemed to give a shit or call me, or nothing's gonna get better. So maybe you can help me get to the hospital. Try to catch it. Try anyway. Okay, and other people, try and pay a little more attention to the people you're around. Okay, don't always think that just because they're the big strong ones are an inspiration for everyone and blah blah blah. Like, no, don't ever do that to people. I've had it done to me. It was wrong. I'm still a little upset about it. Okay. And it's all this PC crap is, oh, well, if I say that out loud, it hurts my feelings because I was just trying to help. Well, get over your damn self. You weren't helping me. Okay. Try not to do that to people. Everybody's gonna have a bad day. Everybody's gonna have a bad season. Everybody's gonna have a bad something or other. Some shit's gonna go down, and it's gonna affect everybody differently. And you get, like, if you have head trauma, right? I mean, all sorts of things can happen to mess up sort of your chemical, physical self, and it can put your mind in places that it doesn't belong. And so people who say they're not safe, just to reiterate this one more time, okay, most likely have a situation of being in an abusive situation. Power abuse, power abuse, power abuse. You understand? Could be work, could be a spouse, could be a friend, could be the United States government. Unfortunately, they need to know that's what they've been doing. And well, if they meant to do it, it's like, okay, sons of bitches, I'm coming for you. And if they didn't mean it, well, then it's just like, well, then you need to listen to me and understand how not to be abusing your own citizens here, because trust me, I know where a lot of hate and anger comes from, folks. And in a lot of cases, it's just abuse. So when somebody says they're not safe, trust them. Okay. Bring them to an emergency room. At the very least, maybe they, right? Maybe they, and then insist, say, well, do you have like a psych evaluation program? Or can we get social services involved? You understand? So sometimes you got to advocate for them, because they are not going to do it for themselves, because deep down somewhere they want to die. Understood? So I'm an honest kind of person. I'm straight out. I hope that somewhere along the way this helps somebody. My next topic will be probably next week. Leave comments if you have any other kind of resources, or people, or you're willing to give out your email and say somebody can buddy up with you or something. You know, yeah, I'm starting to get hoarse. That's my time to go. And my coffee got way cold, which is bad news. I promised myself I wouldn't go more than an hour, so I need to make things more concise. But thank you very much. My name is Mia, and much love to all of you. Take care.